Italy's economy has a story that feels ripped from the pages of a historical drama, one where a nation that once set the gold standard for industry now struggles with a staggering decline. What's wild is this: Italy's economic problems aren't just isolated. They offer a glimpse into the future many advanced economies could face. So how did one of Europe's largest economies fall from grace? And more importantly, what can we learn from it? Let's break it down. Italy is no stranger to hard times, but what's happened over the past 15 years is something different. The economy peaked in 2008, and since then, it's been stuck in what feels like an endless slump. To put it in numbers, Italy has lost about 20% of its nominal GDP since 2008. That's a fifth of its economic output, vanished. The bigger question: why did Italy, once one of the fastest growing advanced economies in the world, just stop growing? And not once, but 3 times in recent history. We can trace a lot of this back to some serious structural flaws. For one, Italy carries one of the highest debt loads in the world. The national debt is now hovering around 144% of GDP, so high that just servicing the interest payments drains the country's resources. And it's not just the debt. Italy's workforce is aging rapidly, and young, skilled workers, the very people Italy desperately needs, are leaving the country in droves. Here's a fact: Italy is a net exporter of talent. In 2021, more than 125,000 Italians emigrated, many of them young graduates who are choosing to work in places like Germany or France, where wages are significantly higher. Italy's birth rate, one of the lowest in Europe at 1.24 children per woman, isn't helping either. This means fewer people to support the growing elderly population, putting even more pressure on an already strained economy. So Italy has fewer workers, higher debt, and a brain drain. What could possibly go wrong? But Italy's problems aren't just demographic. It's about size, specifically the size of its businesses. The average Italian business has 3.6 workers. That's it. Compare that to the Western European average of 15 workers per business. Small firms dominate Italy's economy, and while that might sound quaint and artisanal, it's actually a massive problem. Larger businesses benefit from economies of scale. More workers means specialization, employees who can focus on specific tasks and get really good at them. It also means these companies can invest in technology, which increases productivity. A larger company can afford to spend more on tech, tools, and innovation, boosting efficiency. Let's look at a specific example. Fiat, one of Italy's largest automakers, employs about 55,000 workers in Italy, while Germany's Mercedes employs a similar number. But here's the kicker: Mercedes generates far higher revenue, produces more cars, and commands a luxury premium. They're both in the same industry, but Mercedes benefits from being part of an economy that values size, tech investment, and scalability. Italy's reliance on small family-run firms, while charming, simply can't compete in a global market driven by efficiency and scale. Now, we can't talk about Italy's economy without addressing the elephant in the room: the black market. No, it's not all mafia dealings and shady backroom deals. It's much more mundane than that. In fact, at its peak, Italy's shadow economy accounted for nearly 25% of its total economic output. Today, it's down to about 12%, but that's still a huge portion of the economy that's operating off the books. And that, my friends, is a serious problem for a country that's already struggling with tax revenues. This black market activity means the government is missing out on billions in potential tax revenue. Money that could be used to pay down its debt or invest in its future is slipping through the cracks. But why does the black market exist on such a scale? Because Italy's tax system is notoriously complex, and for many small businesses, it's easier to operate under the table than deal with the mountain of red tape and taxes. But here's the kicker: while these informal businesses might keep people employed, they don't contribute to social safety nets, pensions, or healthcare systems. And in a country with one of the oldest populations in Europe, that's a ticking time bomb. As more and more Italians retire, fewer are contributing to the system, which will inevitably lead to deeper budget deficits. Italy is also a victim of its own history. Its geography, once a blessing, has become part of the problem. For centuries, Italy's northern regions have been its economic heart, while the south has lagged behind. To this day, the north is wealthier and more industrialized, while the south suffers from poverty and underinvestment. Regional inequality has become so pronounced that some parts of southern Italy have unemployment rates as high as 20%. And this divide isn't just about jobs, it's about politics. The north and south of Italy have wildly different political priorities, which makes it incredibly difficult for the national government to push through necessary reforms. It's like trying to run two economies within one country, each with its own set of problems. So, where does this leave Italy? The country is stuck in a catch-22. If it raises taxes to tackle its debt, it risks crushing small businesses already struggling to survive. If it cuts spending, it risks sparking unrest, especially in the poorer south. And if it does nothing, it risks an even deeper crisis down the road. But here's where it gets really interesting. Italy has been here before. In the 1980s, after a decade of stagnation, Italy restructured its economy, and in just 7 years, it tripled its economic output. It was one of the fastest growing economies in history. The question is, can it do it again? The answer is far from simple. Italy's challenges today are bigger, more complex, and deeply intertwined with global trends like aging populations and automation. But the country has a history of resilience, of bouncing back from the brink. And while the road ahead looks tough, Italy's future will depend on whether it can address these structural flaws head-on. Now, before you go, if you found Italy's economic troubles fascinating, you'll definitely want to check out our video on Spain's economic crash. Spain, like Italy, was once a thriving European economy, but a series of financial missteps led to a catastrophic collapse. Click here to watch what made Spain's economy crash so hard and see the striking similarities between these two nations. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into how the world really works. See you next time on StatStream.